Happy Monday. Happy new week. How are y'all doing on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day? I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Full of all the things that weekends are supposed to be about. You know, when we are in the thick of building these businesses alongside our full-time jobs, sometimes it gets a little crazy. So, this is your reminder that it is okay to rest, it is okay to recharge, it is okay to slow down so that you can then take a step back to speed up, okay? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Hi, thanks for popping in. Listen, today's conversation is going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about the fact that your experience isn't common, you're just used to it. So, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to another episode of Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott, and I'm the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit. We're an online education platform designed to help women turn their skills, their existing skills, into coaching, income, digital products, and online businesses so you can earn more. So you can depend less on traditional employment, and so you can start to design a life on your terms. If you haven't already, go get your notebook and your pens or whatever it is that you take notes on. Pop open a notes app on your phone. Share the link to this video in the group chat. Text it to a friend who keeps saying that she wants to do something for herself. If you haven't already, I want you to settle in. Go get your water, your tea, your juice, your coffee, whatever it is that you're sipping on today. Go get that. Settle in because we're going to have a great conversation on this one, okay? Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Okay, I want to ask you something. And I really want you to think about this. Think about the answer to this question before you just rush right past it, okay? So when someone asks you what you do, and I mean what you really do. I'm talking about the stuff that makes you good at your job, the stuff that makes your team always come to you first. I'm talking about the stuff that makes your manager put your name on the hard projects. Do you ever stop to think about how long it took you to learn those things? Think about that. Have you ever stopped to think about how many years it took you to learn that? I mean, really think about it. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. I don't want you to think about your degree and how long it took you to get your degree or how long it took you to get your training or any of this onboarding stuff. I mean, your experience, the decisions that you know how to make under pressure, the problems that you solve before anybody else even notices it was a problem. I'm talking about the judgment that you have developed from being in the room, from being in the work, and you've been doing it for years. Have you ever stopped to think about how long it took you to be able to do what you do? You probably haven't. And that's what we're going to talk about in this conversation today, because somewhere along the way, something that took you years to learn how to do, years to build, because something to you, it's just what you do, right? Somewhere along the way, it just became something of that's just what I do. And when something feels easy to you, it's easy to assume that it's easy for lottie-dottie and everybody, and it's not. Because your experience is not common, you're just used to it. And that one distinction is changing the trajectory of a lot of women's financial lives right now. And we're going to talk all about that today, okay? We are going to talk all about that today. So, hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. A few years ago, I was talking to a woman. I was a woman a few years ago. A few years ago, I was talking to a woman, and for the sake of keeping this woman anonymous, we're going to call her Dana. And Dana had been a compliance officer for 14 years. And she was good. She was really, 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 really good at her job. And she came to me because she had been passed over for a promotion that she'd been building toward for the better part of 3 years, okay? Has that ever happened to you? So Dana had done everything right. She'd taken on all the extra projects that they told her that she needed to take on. She led initiatives that they told her that she needed to lead. She brought in results. And guess what? Dana was still passed over for the promotion. And when I asked her what she wanted to do next, she said, I don't know. I'm really not sure what I have to offer outside of this company. Dana had spent 14 years. She had 14 years of compliance expertise, of regulatory navigation. She had 14 years of being the person who kept an entire organization legally sound. And she didn't know what she had to offer outside of that company. And here's the crazy thing about this, y'all. I have heard versions of this same thing from nurses who have been in clinical for 20 years, from teachers who have built curriculum for entire school districts, from marketing directors who know exactly how to take a brand from invisible to recognized. I've heard it from project managers who have coordinated multi-million-dollar deployments without even blinking an eye. I have heard it from and that's just a handful of people. I've heard it from all of them, all different industries, and it's always the same thing. I'm not sure what I have outside of this. And I really, really, really want you to think about that for a second, because that right there, it's just not a personal belief, y'all. It's a symptom. It's a symptom. It's a symptom of a system that has benefited tremendously from you not understanding the full market value of what you know. That I'm not sure what I have. I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't think I can do that. That is a symptom. I literally had someone tell me this same version of a version of this less than a week ago. This woman is a public relations professional, and she's good at her job. She has created results for startup companies, legacy companies, all types of industries, doing the same thing from her skills. And she literally told me that I don't think I can do anything like that, Nick. I don't think I can do that. I said, just think about it. Like, there's no pressure. There's no pressure here. Because here's what I know. There's going to come a point in most professional women's lives where they realize that their skill set has value outside of the context of what they're doing, has more value than what the salary they're getting paid is given them. It has more value than whatever the compensation package. There's going to come a point in time in almost every single woman's career. There's going to be a crossroads. It's like, is this it? Is this all there is? I'm giving everything to this company, and just like Dana that I just talked about, you're giving your all to these companies, and they're not giving their all to you. There's always going to, and guess what? When that point comes, when you reach that crossroads, I'll be here. I'll be here. I will be here to help you. So no, there is no pressure. No pressure at all. Listen, I loved my job, but I still started building something on the side, okay? So this happens across every industry. It doesn't matter what the industry is. It even happens for stay-at-home moms. When you're getting ready to enter into a new season, whether that's the kids are getting ready to start school, elementary school, whether the kids are getting ready to graduate high school, whether the kids are going to college, you get to a point and you're like, all right, what's next? What's next? And even if you are a stay-at-home mother, your skill set is deep because you have been inside community organizations. Shoot, you've been running your house for however many years. So there's always, in every woman's life, there is always going to come a point where it's like, all right, what's next? And I'll be here. So there's no pressure, there's no rush. And that's basically what I told her. Because the thing, what I was saying is that believing that's a symptom. It is a symptom. And it's because we have thrived and we have grown up and we have been trained inside of these systems that have tremendously benefited from our understanding that They benefit from the fact that we don't understand how much the market will pay us. These systems benefit from that. Like your employer, they know exactly what your experience is worth. They know exactly what your experience is worth. The question is, when are you going to start recognizing what your experience and your skills and your expertise are worth? Because we think of our skills as something that typically lives inside of a job, or something that typically lives inside of whatever community organization we're volunteering for, or something that, and especially for stay-at-home moms, we don't even think about what we do with skills at all, or our expertise, right? We think about it as something that lives inside of our jobs. Listen, you got your experience, typically, if you're a professional woman, you got it at your job. And you use those skills at your job. And if that job ends, somehow you start to believe that that experience that you developed there, that it belongs there. And that's just not how this works. Because your skills are portable. They live in you, not inside your employer system. And when you start to see your experience and your skills and your expertise as assets instead of job requirements, listen, everything else about your financial picture starts to look different. And this isn't because your circumstances change. It's because your understanding of what you're working with has changed. Okay? Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Now, I want to take a minute just to talk about something that does not get enough airtime in this space, because there is a very specific skill that happens, a very specific experience that happens to women who have been good at their jobs for a long time. And this is very common. And it goes a little something like this. You get really, really good at something, and you get so good at it that it becomes automatic. And when something becomes automatic, it stops feeling like a skill. It feels like, again, it just feels like, you know what, this is just what I do, right? And I want to be very clear. I want to be gentle, but I want to challenge that. Because what's just a random Tuesday for you is an outcome that a client would pay for. And I want to say that again, because I really, really want the people in the back to hear me. What is just a regular, degular, schmegular Tuesday to you? I'm talking about the thing that is so automatic that it barely even registers to you. That is a result that someone else is actively searching for. And they're searching for it online. They're Googling it. They're looking for it on YouTube. They're searching podcast directories. They're looking in coaching directories. They're literally typing questions into search bars. They're looking for someone who knows exactly what you already know how to do. And that gap is not in your expertise or your skill set. That gap is in your visibility. And I want to add just one more layer to this, because I want to be very, very clear about something. I am not talking about starting over. I am not talking about quitting your job and blowing everything up that you have worked so hard to build. I'm not talking about burning anything down here. I'm talking about understanding that your career, your job, your 9 to 5, that's not your only asset. Whatever it is that you do professionally, that is not your only asset. Your experience. I am talking about your knowledge. I'm talking about your judgment. I'm talking about the frameworks that you have built. Those are assets. And right now, most women have one primary asset, and that is their salary. And that means all of your financial stability is tied to one single employer's decision, and that is not safety. That is a single point of failure. And I'm going to say something else that might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I think you already know it's true. The companies that we work for in this day and time, they are making significant structural changes, not hypothetically. This isn't hypothetical. They are making these changes right now. Like corporate diversity and inclusion commitments that were made very public a few years ago, they're being scaled back. return to office mandates, they're being pushed on people who restructured their entire lives around the flexibility that they were promised. Senior level advancement for women, particularly women of color. Senior level advancement, it is moving at the pace of pond water. It is moving at the pace around, it's not matching the contributions that you made, right? Like that, the senior level advancement opportunities, you are pouring, again, you're pouring everything into these companies, but they're not pouring anything into you. And the women who are bearing the most risks here, they're the ones who have the most to lose because they've built everything, their entire lives, on one stream of income. And I am not saying this to scare you, y'all. I'm saying this because you deserve an honest conversation. You deserve an honest picture of what this is. Listen, your job is valuable 100%. I want you to keep your job. We do not train and teach women to quit their jobs over here and to bet everything on a passion project. So no, your job is valuable. In fact, I always say that your job should be the first investor in your business. So please keep your job. Keep your job. Build inside your job. Grow inside your job. And also, stop letting your job be your only plan. I'm talking about income diversification. Because most people, they think about financial safety as, how do I make more money in my job? How do I get a raise? How do I get a promotion? How do I make a lateral move to a higher paying company? And let's be very, very clear. All of those are legitimate moves. But there's a ceiling on that strategy. And it's not always a ceiling that you control. So a different question, and a much more powerful question that you should be asking yourself, is how do I build income that my employer cannot touch? How can I build income that my employer cannot touch, that my employer cannot disrupt? And I'm not saying that you start to build this income because you're planning to quit. You don't have to plan to quit. Not until you're ready. You might not ever want to quit. You don't even start to do this because you're disloyal to your organization. I am encouraging you to do this because ownership is the hedge. Because when you have a second stream of income, you walk into every performance review different. I'm talking about a second stream of income that is tied to your knowledge, your credibility, and your skills. You will walk into every single performance review with a different posture. You will walk into every reorganization announcement different. You'll start to make career decisions based on what you want and not on what you can afford to risk. You feel me? Because that right there, that is what freedom looks like, and that's what it feels like in practice. It's not a beach working from anywhere. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, if that's what freedom is for you, by all means. But it really is options. Freedom isn't a passive income fantasy that's being sold in these internet streets. Freedom is true freedom. Let's get real. True freedom is the ability to say yes to the things that you want to say yes to. It is the ability to say no to the things that you want to say no to. And it's the ability to answer, to say yes or no from a position of options instead of a position of need. Like, I have the choice to do this or not to do this, whatever the thing is. So I want to just switch gears a little bit. And hello. Thanks for joining. And I want to talk about what coaching is. Because I think there is this idea of coaching that lives in a lot of people's heads that isn't what I talk about. Okay? So the idea in your head When you hear the word coaching, it might involve a life coach with a vision board aesthetic, right? Or maybe a business coach with a Lamborghini in their Instagram bio. Or maybe it's someone who charges $5,000 for a retreat. And at that retreat, this person is mostly telling you to believe in yourself. Now, let's be clear. That's a segment of the market, but that's also not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is skills-based coaching. I'm talking about a skills-based coaching business. So it could be a nurse who coaches new nurses through clinical decision making so they build confidence faster and make fewer costly mistakes. It could be an HR director who coaches hiring managers on how to build equitable interview processes that surface the right candidates for the job. It could be a financial analyst who coaches entrepreneurs on how to read their numbers instead of handing them off to an accountant and hoping for the best. It could be an educator who coaches curriculum developers on how to build learning experiences that serve more than the standard student profile. All of that is coaching, and it's more. I mean, it's literally, it doesn't matter. Those were just examples. It doesn't matter what your day job is. It is literally taking what you know. It is taking what you've lived. It is taking what you've been paid to execute inside of whatever institution, and it is translating that into a direct relationship with someone who needs what you know how to do. And here's what makes this different from every other business model. You don't have to start from zero. You start from everything that you've already built. Your experience is the product. Your credibility is your brand. And your network is your first audience. So you don't need a huge following. You don't need a course platform. You don't need to become a content creator in this. All you need to know is what you know, and you need to know who needs what you know. Now, this is where I want to push back on something that comes up every single time I have this conversation, because someone is always saying, but Nick, who would pay me to coach? I don't have a certification, I don't have a big audience, and I don't have a brand. And I want to address each of those individually because they all sound logical, but none of them are the barrier to entry in this. Let's talk about the certification. So there are fields where a certification is required. Legal fields, medical fields, clinical psychology, yes. Those are all, some financial fields as well, right? Those are regulatory lines. But most of the coaching that women are equipped to deliver, it is typically not in those categories. So if you've been a project manager for 12 years and you coach someone how to build a stakeholder communication strategy that doesn't blow up in their face at the executive level, your PMP certification does matter in that. But your ICF coaching certification, it doesn't, because your experience is your credentials and your results are your proof. Okay? So, audience. I need a big audience. You don't need a big audience to build a coaching business. You need clients. Let me say that again. And if you're taking notes, I want you to personalize this thing in your notebook. I want you to write, I do not need an audience to build my coaching business. I need clients, because those are two very different things. Clients come from relationships. They come from referrals. They come from positioning. And an audience is optional. Yes, it might accelerate, but it is not a starting line. All right, let's talk about the fact that you don't have a brand. Let's be very clear. I have spent the better part of my coaching, my online coaching career, I have spent the better part of that teaching other women how to leverage their personal brands. So brand is something that I know about. Like, I can talk about brand in my sleep, all right? And the fact of the matter is, whether you admit it or not, whether you see it or not, whether you accept it or not, Your brand already exists. You already have a brand. It is your reputation. It is what people say about you when you are not in the room to tell them what to say. Your brand is the email that someone sends when they need someone trustworthy with a hard problem. Your brand is the text message that you get from your family or your friends about a problem that you know how to solve. That's your brand. You've been building a brand for years. So you don't need to build anything new in this. You need to attach some income. You need to attach some income to what already exists. And here's the thing that is one of the most underrated insights in this space. Coaching is not a trendy side hustle. Let me tell you something about coaching. The global coaching market is a multi-billion with a B, billion-dollar industry. Multi-billion-dollar industry. And the majority of revenue that comes through coaching, it is not in personal development or in motivation. It's in professional development. It's in leadership. It's in organizational skills. It's in career and business strategy. It's in the categories where women just like you have accumulated the most experience and the most credibility. This is not a saturated market that doesn't need you. This is a growing market that specifically needs women with real expertise and real track records. And you are positioned for this, even if it doesn't feel like it yet, y'all. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Okay, so I want to come back to something that I said at the top of this episode. And if you missed it, I encourage you to go ahead and watch the replay of this on my YouTube channel. And that is, your experience is not common. You're just used to it. And I want to go deeper because the way that we measure our own value is broken. It's broken. Like, we measure our value relative to the people who are around us, right? So if everyone on your team can do what you do, it doesn't feel special to you because everybody else can do it. If the peers in your field have the same credentials as you, your credentials don't feel distinctive. Like, if everybody you know has a bachelor's degree doesn't feel special, right? If the problems that you solve are quote unquote normal for your industry, solving them at a high level, it doesn't feel remarkable anymore. But here's the measurement problem. You're comparing yourself to a population inside your specific context, right? Everybody with a bachelor's degree, just because everybody you know has a bachelor's degree doesn't mean that a bachelor's degree isn't special. It's like going to a fitness competition and feeling like you're average because everyone else in the room works out 5 days a week. You're in a room full of outliers and you're forgetting that the comparison group should be everyone else and not those outliers. You see what I'm saying? So, what I'm trying to say here is that your skills feel normal to you because you've normalized it, because the spaces that you're in have normalized it. And this is true across every single industry. Every single industry. Listen, your skills that aren't taught, skills that aren't taught in an MBA program. Skills that aren't taught in a certification. These are the skills that I'm talking about. Skills that were developed outside of a textbook, not in an MBA program, not in a certification course. I'm talking about skills that are built through years of work. That is what the market is paying for. They're not paying for credentials. The market is not paying for titles. They're not paying for an academic pedigree. The market is paying for demonstrated, lived expertise. So let me ask you a question. What do the people around you come to you for? I don't want you to think about your job description. I don't want you to think about your org chart responsibilities. I want you to think about, what do people come to you for in informal situations without, you don't even have to ask them to come to you for this thing. When they need something handled, when they need something fixed, what are they coming to you for? Because that right there is your niche. That's your coaching niche. That right there is the intersection of what you know, what you do naturally, and what other people are actively seeking you out for. Because that thing that you've been doing for free, the thing that you do in between your official responsibilities, the thing that you're doing because you're good at it and people trust you to solve that problem, that right there is the thing that someone would pay to have. And you have been coaching your whole career. I would even say that you've been coaching your whole life. You just haven't been charging for it. Right? And we've kind of touched on this part that I'm getting ready to get into a little bit, and that is the identity shift. That is the identity shift, because women, we have been trained. We talked about this a little bit a few minutes ago. We have been trained to place our value inside of a system, inside of an institution. So it's, my title, my department, my company. And when that structure changes, when your title goes away, when your company restructures, when your industry shifts, it can feel like your value went away right with it. And it didn't. Your value is not in an institution. Your value is in you. Your institution, the system, the organization, the company, it was just the place where you proved your value. What you built at that company is yours. Your judgment is yours. The relationships you built, they're yours. The pattern recognition is yours. The ability to walk into a problem and know and immediately know what the problem is versus what the problem looks like on the surface, all that is yours. And I touched on this earlier too. All of that, it is worth substantially more than your salary, than what you're being paid for right now. 100% guaranteed. 100% guaranteed. So I want to talk about what I want you to build here, because I want to be very clear that this is not about creating a side hustle so you can feel less financially anxious. What I am talking about is building a second financial structure. I'm talking about diversifying your income. I'm talking about building a financial structure that is yours, one that you own, that isn't contingent on someone else's budget, restructuring plan, or definition of what your value is. And I want you to just imagine what this looks like in practice. Because when you have a second stream of income that's connected to your skills and your credibility, listen, you can take parental leave without the financial panic of, what if something happens while I'm gone? What if something changes while I'm gone? Listen, the last company that I worked for, it was actually their fourth round of layoffs. The time I got laid off, that was the fourth round of layoffs. And the very first round of layoffs that happened, there was somebody on my team that went to a doctor's appointment. And when they came back from that doctor's appointment, she didn't have her job anymore. I am not lying to y'all. I am not lying to y'all. And she was, senior, whatever, she had the title, she had the salary, she had the flexibility, she had all the things. And she literally went to a doctor's appointment. And when she came back from that doctor's appointment, her job was gone. The round of layoffs that I was in at this company, one of the ladies on my team was pregnant. Again, title, there, senior, whatever, title, salary, results, all the things. Literally, I done put in for my parental leave, and you gonna lay me off? What? But when you have a second stream of income in place, when you, even if it's a small one, it doesn't have to replace your salary. It just needs to be in motion before you need it to be in motion. Because when you have it in motion before you need it to be in motion, you have options. And that's what this is about. Like, you have options. You have the option to go back to another job if that's what you want to do. Or you have the option to just pivot and lean all the way into this thing and get paid for your full value. This is about options. That's all. I'm selling you options. That is all I'm doing. So when you have those options, when you have your second income stream in motion, that's not dependent on somebody else's budget or restructuring, you can take a parental leave without, or you can go on vacation without thinking about what if something changes while I'm gone. You can take a medical leave without having to calculate whether or not you can afford to be sick. When you start getting this thing in motion, you can walk away from a toxic environment without staying because you can't afford to leave. You can say no to a job that pays more but costs more in ways that don't show up on a paycheck. I'm not talking about anything luxurious here. I'm talking about the decisions that the women around you, the ones who have built this, women are making this decision right now. They're making this decision right now. And the thing that makes those decisions possible is not a bigger salary. It is income diversification. It is diversifying their income. It is getting this thing in motion and creating that level of insurance before they need it. And while I'm talking about it, I want to say something else that I hear a lot in conversations about income. And that is the idea of building something outside of your 9 to 5. It means you're secretly planning to leave. Let me tell you something. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I wish we can unlearn that, because the fact of the matter is, particularly in this economy, the most strategic move that you can make for you, for your family, for your legacy, for your future, for your primary career, is to stop being fully dependent on it. That is the most strategic move you can make. Because when you have income that isn't contingent on your job, you're going to negotiate different. You're going to show up different at work. You're going to make decisions based on what you want your career to be, not what you need it to be for survival. And that right there, it is not disloyalty. It is financial intelligence, y'all. And it is the kind of move that corporate America has always made for itself. Like, these jobs have always been doing this. Investment portfolios, vesting schedules, deferred compensation, equity stakes. They're doing these things at the same time that they're telling employees that a paycheck and benefits are enough. But yet and still, the owners of these companies are diversifying their income all day long. So you're allowed to apply that same logic to your own financial life. The goal of building a second stream of income isn't for you to leave your job. The goal is so you have the option to leave your job if that's what you want, because options are the whole point of this. It is not income for income's sake. I'm not talking about a passive income as a fantasy. I'm talking about options. I'm talking about the ability to make a different decision than the one that you've made if your paycheck was the only thing that's keeping the lights on for you. That is what we're building at Her Income Edit. That is what Her Income Edit exists to help you build. And I want to tell you about exactly how we do that, okay? Hello. Thanks for joining. So far in this conversation, I'm going to just recap. And if you missed any of this, if you're just joining live, I encourage you to go back and watch the replay of this on my YouTube channel. But so far today, We have talked about the experience that you've normalized that the market hasn't normalized yet, right? We have talked about why your salary all by itself is a single point of failure in an economic environment and in a corporate environment that was never designed. Like, these jobs are not designed to prioritize your financial safety. We talked about that. We even talked about coaching, and we talked about how it's not just a trendy pivot. We talked about coaching as a natural and strategic extension of the skills that you've spent years building. And we have also talked about what you are building toward. Like, what is it that if you were my client, what I would be imparting on you to build toward, because this isn't just about income, y'all. This is about options. This is about freedom. This is about a financial architecture that's truly yours. So we talked about all that. Again, if you're just joining live, I encourage you to watch the replay of this conversation on my YouTube channel. But I want to tell you what's next. Right now, the enrollment for Ignite is open right now. We will kick off this next round on September 14th, and those spots are open and they're available today. What is Ignite, Nick? Okay, I'm glad that you asked. Ignite is my 12-week group coaching program, and it is built specifically for professional women who are ready to take their skills and build a coaching business alongside their career. Not after your career, not eventually one of these days. I mean, right now, alongside your career, because you don't have to leave anything behind to build this. You don't have to abandon your family to build this, because over the 12 weeks, what we do is we build your foundation, your positioning, your offer, your pricing, and you enroll your first clients in your own program. You do this inside of a program with a clear framework. You do this with a cohort of women who are exactly where you are, and you do this with me in the room with you. So this isn't just a pre-recorded course that you'll start and never finish. This is live. It is structured. It is specific, and Ignite is designed for the woman who is serious. Ignite is designed for the woman who is serious. Ignite is not designed for the woman who is still deciding whether or not she's ready. Okay? Ignite is my 12-week group coaching program built specifically for professional women who are ready to take their skills and build a coaching offer alongside their career. So if you are watching this, you're probably not still deciding, because I've been on here for over 40 minutes. So if you're still here, if you're still listening, you're probably not still deciding, because you've probably been deciding for a while. You're just looking for the thing that is worth saying yes to. And I want to tell you what I want for you. This is what I want for you on the other side of these 12 weeks. I want you to have a coaching offer that is priced at your real value. Not what feels comfortable, not what you think people will pay for, not what your salary says that you're worth, quote unquote worth. I want you to have something that reflects your real value, something that is positioned and primed for someone to say yes to. I want you to have your first client. Or I want you to have your first paid conversation. Or I want you to have your first discovery call that converts into income. I want you to have something real. I want you to have something that proves to you and everybody else in your experience, in your own experience, that what you know is worth paying for. Because here's the deal, once you have that belief, it does the rest. The belief in yourself, everything else, the belief in yourself, it changes, and then everything else just rolls into place. So again, we are enrolling right now And we start off this next one on September 14th. You can go straight to my website at herincomeedit.com/ignite, or you can click the link down in the description. And if you are watching this and you've been nodding along, you've been taking notes, if you have been thinking as I've been talking about, you know what, this is me, this is exactly what I need, I want you to understand that that is not coincidence. That right there is recognition. And that, to me, it means that you already know that this is the right move. And the question is whether or not are you going to make that move. So just go over to my website, herincomeedit.com/ignite. Click the link down in the description. You can read everything on that page. And if it sounds like I wrote it for you, guess what? I did. I did. Because the fact of the matter is, we live in a world that has made a very good living on convincing you that your value is defined by where you work. We live in a world that has made a whole lot of money at convincing you that what your title is, that your value is defined by what your title is, and that your value is defined by what your employer decides to pay you. But the thing about that is that has always been incomplete. It's always been incomplete because your value was never in the building that you work in. It's always in what you have learned while you're in that building. And the most powerful financial move that you will ever make is not a new job. It is not a bigger salary. It is the moment that you stop letting someone else be the only one who profits from what you know. Listen, your experience is not common. You're just used to it. And the world outside of your job is waiting to pay you a premium for it. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. I see the love on YouTube. Listen, I want to thank each and every one of you who popped in and out of this conversation today. If this video helped you see something a little different, I want you to share it. Share the link in the group chat. Text it to someone in your circle who needs to hear this today. The link for Ignite is in the description, or you can just go straight to my website at herincomeedit.com/ignite. We are kicking off on September 14th. Enrollment is open. I want to see you on the inside. I want to see you on the inside. Thanks so much for popping in and out of this live stream. My name is Nick Scott. I am the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit. This has been another episode of Nick at Noon. If you haven't already, I want you to hit that subscribe button and turn your bell notifications on so you don't miss a beat. We talk about all things strategy, tools, and mindset when it comes to coaching, income, digital products, and online businesses. That's what we talk about on this channel. We are building businesses over here. We are creating income diversification over here. We are creating options for ourselves over here. We are building a better future so we can do what? Earn more, depend less on traditional employment, and start to design a life on our terms, not just for ourselves, but for our family, for our futures, and for our legacies, okay? So if that sounds like you, I want you to hit that subscribe button, head over to my website and check out Ignite, herincomeedit.com/ignite. Happy Monday. Happy new week. Again, my name is Nick Scott. This has been another episode of Nick at Noon. I am here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Mountain Time. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.